showtime at the Olympic legend Apolo Ohno joins us live, and the legends will keep on coming. Julian Mancuso joins us to break down all the action from the slopes, and also, can the NBA All-Star Game dunk on the haters? Yahoo Sports Daily starts right now. She's Caroline Fenton. I'm Jason Fitz. For the next 2 hours, we are rack stacked and packed to get you caught up on everything you need to know on a very weird day. I'm going to admit it, Caroline, I don't know how to feel about today. We're going into Valentine's weekend, which for many is the weekend of lovers and joy and all of these things. But it's also Friday the 13th where, let's be honest, the more people love, the more they get killed in every horror movie. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. It's either a very scary day or a very loving day.
And it's also Mardi Gras weekend. So truly choose your fighter. If you're into the spooky of it all, today is a day for you. If you're here for the love of it all, today, this weekend is a weekend for you. If you're just down to party and have a great time, you can do that too. It's like a buffet of celebrations.
Well, I will try not to throw any beads, but I can't make any promises. We're just going to see where it goes. I love Mardi Gras. Great party. All right, speaking of parties, it was a party last night watching all of the Olympics. We're going to get you caught up on a lot of it, and we will start with a dominant performance from Team USA on the ice. They take down Latvia 5-1. The score a little misleading. It was 1-1 after one, but there were two goals that were reversed due to they were reviewed and they were called back. So USA a little bit of a slow start here, sort of, but a 5-1 domination that I think kind of has everybody looking up and saying, okay, things look like they could go pretty well this year.
Slow start, quote unquote. If you're just looking at the box score, it should have been 3-1 at the end of the first period. It really should have been a 7-1 final. But you did see after those two goals got called back in the first period, that's really when Team USA started to find their stride. That's really when the shots started pouring in. So you could argue, okay, if those goals didn't get called back, then maybe they wouldn't have found that offensive firepower in the second, third periods. But I don't really subscribe to that belief because it was sheer and utter domination from a Team USA that should have dominated Team Latvia. It was fun to see. It was fun to watch, even if you were on the edge of your seat a little bit after 1, 2, and 3. It was just fun. It was just a party. So, Fitz, I still believe in this team. I still believe that this team has the talent to go the distance. Now, Team Canada looked like a freaking wagon yesterday as well, so it's not going to be easy, of course. But I think the officiating was very suspect. We mentioned the two goals that got called back. I don't know why they got called back. I don't know why they were reviewed in the first place. They both felt like very cut and dry, easy goals to call, in my opinion. If I'm going to take my red, white, and blue tinted glasses off, I was very confused why those goals were even reviewed in the first place.
Yeah, there were some questionable calls, I think, throughout the course of the game. And one thing that I think we do have to credit is when things aren't going your way and you're a heavy favorite early on, especially considering the fact that these guys get very little time on task together leading up to the Olympics. So you have an NHL all-star team basically trying to figure out how to work together and work together very quickly. I thought one of the most important things is that they maintain their consistency in attack. I mean, the shots on net were absolutely just it was brutal. I think it was 48-18. I'll pull it up.
Whew.
But the shots on goal were just absolutely astronomical. But even more important to me than that was the time in the offensive end of the ice. I mean, the amount of puck control by Team USA was absolutely incredible. And the number of times that they were moving the puck around the perimeter and Latvia had absolutely no way to even get it. I felt like I was watching like a big brother play keep away with a little brother, and they had no answer for it. So to me, I think part of this was just almost like an exhibition match where you're watching Team USA get their skates under them a little bit, get their level of dominance. You're right. Canada also looked absolutely incredible. We expect that Canada won 5-0. But the more I watched these games, the more I kept thinking, yeah, it is clear, when you get into this situation and you're talking about the NHL All-Stars coming into play in the Olympics, there are certain countries that are just going to be better than the opposition. Can they keep their focus? Can they use all of these moments the right way? Can they handle it when it's a little bit of adversity that isn't expected? I think Team USA answered all of those questions, Caroline, in the process of a 5-1 win that, you're right, easily could have been 7-1. They also had two that went off the pole. This game was as close to 9-1 as it was 5-1. So I think everybody needs to relax a little bit on the slow start. I think this was a pretty dominant ass kicking.
Did you have a level of concern at all? I think I felt a
No,
level
no.
of concern, maybe just like following all of the rhetoric and all of the commentary on social media. But it wasn't a level of concern of, "Oh my gosh, Team USA is going to blow it." Maybe that was just me projecting my own feelings onto all of the reaction that I was reading, because even if it was tied after one, I didn't really have a level of doubt that this team was going to be able to find their stride. I felt like more of the level of concern from all of the tweets that I was reading, all of the reaction in social media was, "Oh my gosh, are the refs gonna blow it for this team?"
Yeah, I mean, you're right. And by the way, shout out Doug. Producer Doug has given me the number 38-18 shots on goal. Not quite as dominant as I thought, but yes,
38-18. But still,
38-18. No, but to your point,
a
you and I have
20
covered
shot
a lot of
advantage.
yeah, and we've covered a lot of college football in our lives. This felt to me a lot like a college football game early in the season when you have Alabama taking on, National Auto Diesel College, and all of a sudden you feel like, okay, after the first half, they're playing with their food a little bit, and then all of a sudden the eruption starts. The level of talent on this team, though, their ability to quickly move the puck to each other, and everybody can shoot. I just think that's what one of the beautiful things of this is. We're going to talk a little bit about the NBA All-Star game coming up in this show. But Caroline, I was watching this realizing that we're watching an NHL All-Star game where the team actually cares, right? Like you're watching
Yeah.
the level of just passion that comes into it. Every guy talked after the game when they were interviewed. Every single one of them had something to say about what it means to put that kid on, like that sweater on, what it means to represent your country. You see that, and then you see how quickly they're passing the puck. This is going to be dynamic. Whatever we have to do, it's almost like you have to eat your vegetables before you finally get the cake. If I got to eat the vegetables of just watching them kick everybody's butt until we get to the cake of USA versus Canada, I'm here for every second of it, simply because the sheer magnitude of talent on display on the ice is absolutely otherworldly.
It does feel like this team is playing with a certain level of swagger and a certain level of chemistry. And those two things are, I mean, invaluable, especially once you're getting through the course of the grind of the Olympics. It's easy to kind of find that level of swagger about you whenever you're able to dismantle a Latvian team that you should have beaten up on. Now, how do you continue that level of confidence? How do you continue that level of chemistry? Well, that's what's going to be tested throughout the course of, out of this competition, out of this tournament. That is only going to get more and more difficult. But we did hear from several members of Team USA. I believe it was one of the Kachuk brothers. I can't keep them straight. One of the Kachuk brothers, though, was talking after the game and was talking about how, like you mentioned, each one of us feels this overwhelming sense of pride and sense of ownership and representing Team USA, and we're playing like it. We're playing like we have something to prove. We're playing like it, like we are, we're representing our nation because they are, and we're playing with a kind of freedom that kind of comes with knowing that, hey, when we step on that ice, we know that we are the better team. I think what makes this team so special, just watching them, and if we want to take all the warm fuzzies and all of the sentiment out of it, yesterday put on full display for me how deep this team is, because you're not just getting production from the Kachucks. You're not just getting production from the Jack Eichels of the team, which you got yesterday. We actually got an assist from one Kachuk brother to the other Kachuk brother yesterday. Again, don't know which one was who, but it was a Kachuk and a Kachuk. You get it. You get the point. Which was very
Kachuk
cute
on a
and very
Kachuk.
special. Yeah, how much wood could a woodchuck chuck? Kachuk. But you're also getting production up and down the lineup as well. Like, you're getting serious production from your fourth line. Look at Brock Nelson yesterday, a fourth line winger who had 2 assists and 2 goals. You looked at JT Miller, who was incredibly productive yesterday as well. You're looking at Jack Hughes, who had 2 assists yesterday. I think when you look at some of these, like Latvia, for example, there are some names on that team that you might recognize from the NHL. And there might be some teams that have a sprinkling of superstars at the very top, but once you get to the bottom, like, that's where the differences lie. Like, that's where you see the margins start to differentiate themselves with a Team USA, with a Team Canada. But when Team USA is getting production from their fourth liners, like, that's when you know that you have a level of confidence in any guy on any given day.
And a level of selflessness, understanding that in most places you would be the superstar, and now you're a fourth liner getting managed minutes because of some of the stars like Auston Matthews that you see there. They're going to need that star power to match up against Canada. A big game for them. We've mentioned it a couple of times. They win 5-0. Connor McDavid, a bunch of assists. Sidney Crosby, a bunch of assists. I really wanted to say that simply because I wanted to remind everybody Connor McDavid and Sidney Crosby are on the other team, just as an example of how much star power. Like, well, I
and
mean,
Cale
we could
McCarr
just.
and
It's just.
Taves. And the list goes on and
It's
on.
insane. It is insane. We are going to end up with an NHL who's who when we Team USA versus Team Canada. It's why I think it'll be one of the absolute premier key moments. Like, I usually come into everything. Everybody knows I love chaos. I'm an agent of chaos for everybody other than America in the Olympics. I want everybody else to fail, only America to win, to be very clear. I don't want chaos in this instance. I need USA versus Canada. I need that to be the way that we watch all of this. I don't want anyone to get in the way of the epic matchup we all want just because the stars are out so hard on that.
Yeah. Well, we deserve that. We deserve USA Canada. We deserve USA Canada for the star power. I mean, I just pulled up Team Canada's roster: Connor McDavid, Mitch Marner, Sidney Crosby, Brad Marchand, Mark Stone, Colton Parayko, Nathan McKinnon, Sam
Lord.
Reinhart, Sam Bennett, Cale McCarr, Taves. Like, the list goes on and on and on of certified superstars in the NHL, names that we all recognize from the NHL side of things. So it's not just the superstar caliber that I think we would all love, but it's a clash of the titans. You know, we played a clip yesterday on the show. Of course, you can find that on the Yahoo Sports YouTube page. But I talked to Yoshi a couple of months ago at the Olympic Showcase, and I asked him, what's the most important, rivalry for Team USA, knowing what his answer would be, but I just wanted to hear it, from his perspective without a hesitation. Before I even finished my question, he said, it's Canada. And I asked several other athletes from different sports, skiing, snowboarding, so on and so forth, asked them what they were most excited to watch in this year's Olympics. They said Team USA and Team Canada in the gold medal game, if God willing we get that matchup. It's one of the greatest rivalries that we have, not just in Olympic sport, but I think in sports, period.
One of the biggest stars of the Olympics is Chloe Kim. She did have what some might call a disappointing day yesterday, falling just short of the gold in the women's halfpipe. She takes home the silver. I want to say this loudly, Caroline. I am not going to live in a world where I tell somebody that a silver medal is a disappointment. When she was asked about it at the podium afterwards, she spoke on the fact that she's honored to win a medal. But we did have great expectations. She comes up a little bit short in this situation, winning her third consecutive Winter Olympic medal, but not getting the gold.
Yeah, look, there's nothing wrong with silver. I think athletes dream their entire lives just to make the podium. So I don't want to act like silver is any sort of, less than. But it is a little bit disappointing whenever you have someone like Chloe Kim, who will live in U.S. Winter Olympic history, who is one of the most iconic superstars that we have in Team USA, falls short of cementing herself in history, even more so than she already has. Chloe Kim was vying to be the first to ever U.S. snowboarder, man or woman, to win 3 consecutive gold medals in 3 consecutive Olympic Games. Like, the fact that she had that in her grasp and fell just short of it, it is kind of disappointing, and you wanted that for her. But she spoke after the event, and she had an overwhelming sense of gratitude. She wasn't disappointed in herself. I don't think she was frustrated in herself. And she said, yeah, I wanted to go for the gold. I tried. That's just in my nature. I went for it and I didn't get it, but I have 2 gold medals. I've had a really wonderful career. And I do think it's kind of poetic that the gold medal award winner, South Korea's Gaon Choi, she's 17 years old. Chloe Kim was 17 when she won her first gold medal. So it did kind of feel like a very poetic passing of the torch, so to speak, of the next era of Olympic snowboarders.
Well, just remember, there's no Ricky Bobby here. So if you're not first, you're last is not the way that
Nothing
things
wrong with
work
silver
in the Olympics. Come on now. All right, we've got plenty more to break down on the Olympics. We've got some great guests that are going to join us throughout the course of the show, and we'll get you caught up on everything you need to know. But coming up next, we're going to try and figure out how much we should be valuing one of the best players in the NFL draft. We'll tell you about it next.
At the very top of my list, We need finality to Aspinall versus Gunn.
Yeah.
We need finality to this.
Have to.
I just want to see this fight play out because guess what? It was a very entertaining fight and it was playing out in a way that I think a lot of people didn't think it would play out. So I need to see that fight. I have to see that fight. The division needs to see that fight. They both need to see that fight. They both earned it and deserved it, and we can't move on without that fight.
Do the Spurs still take Dylan Harper over Con Knippel and VJ Edgecombe?
I think for me, if I was to do it all over again, I would still take the best pick available, and that is Dylan Harper. I mean, you see, he just is such an elite creator.
Prior to the draft, Mo, I was pretty consistent in saying that I would trade down and take a Con Knippel. Con at 4, I still think would have been the best possible outcome for San Antonio, and I feel that way even more strongly at this point.
All football teams are dams. Some of them have a ton of cracks. Some of them have a few cracks. It's all about who faces enough water pressure from their schedule to expose the cracks. Most of the time when you're playing in the Big Ten or the SEC, you're going to face several tests that will expose your cracks. I don't think Ohio State did this year. They faced Texas early in the year, and they just never faced enough pressure to expose the cracks.
Did you notice that the scoring totals had fallen in the new year, that the New Year's resolution apparently was to bring physicality back?
A couple of years ago when it was all of a sudden everybody scored 50, 60, 70. And then like the air went out of the ball for a month. And it was like in the middle of the season, the way the rules were being called kind of changed and scoring started to drop.
Look, to be fair, Dan, it could be, hey, everyone just magically figured out how to play legal defense.
Dane Brugler, one of the best draft experts you'll find out there, tweeted out, fun question I've been asking to scouts. Caleb Downs is the best safety prospect you've personally scouted since? A few have answered, ever. Caleb Downs is going to be one of the more interesting studies that we'll have in this year's NFL draft regarding positional value because he is a safety. But many will already tell you that if you're just looking on a board and asking who the best player in this year's draft is, for many people, it's Caleb Downs. So the question is, Caroline, how much do we have to account for the fact that the position he plays doesn't typically get drafted as high as Caleb Downs' talent would justify drafting?
I think there's two different schools of thought coming into play here of elite playmakers, blue chip players change your team and will be contributors for your team for the next 10 years. They'll be franchise players. They will be foundational pieces of your team moving forward. You need those kinds of players. I think there's also, though, comes into the conversation of value. Draft value is a real thing. It has to be. Because if you're drafting high enough if you're bad enough to be drafting high enough in the top 5, top 10, to be in the range to draft Caleb Downs, you don't want to be that bad for very long. Like, you don't want to be drafting at the top of the draft over the next 5 years. So you have to be thinking about what kind of player can make an impact for our team in the biggest way. Because Caleb Downs will make 32 teams in the NFL better. Like, that's the kind of prospect that I think he is. I think was the best defensive player in college football last year. And there are plenty of strong arguments to be made that Caleb Downs was the best player in college football this past year. But it's not a premier position. The positions that get paid in the NFL are those who throw the football, those who catch the football, and those two who hit the guy who throws the football. Quarterback, receiver, edge rusher. And the guys who protect the guy who throws the football, offensive lineman. It's not to say that Caleb Downs is invaluable because he's absolutely valuable. It's not to say that safety doesn't matter because it absolutely does. But if you're picking top 3 in the draft, you're probably pretty bad. And you probably have a lot of positions of need. What's going to help you right now? An elite receiver or an elite safety? I lean receiver, but that's my own personal football philosophy.
So number one, I'm going to put quarterback in a separate conversation for a second because
it's different.
Quarterback, I think, quarterback raises your floor more than any position in all of sports. If you have a great quarterback, it makes up for a lot of deficiencies. I'm torn on this, Caroline, because I think we both agree Caleb Downs. Like if we were drafting in a vacuum, I think there'd be a real argument for Caleb Downs being the first pick in the draft. Now, certainly that wouldn't make sense for a team like the Raiders. So we say that out loud. But the fact is, I'm with you. Safety shouldn't be a difference maker. But also, when you are terrible, part of the reason you're terrible is because your entire roster sucks. And at some point, what you need is improvement all over the place. I'm not sure any one position actually results in gratuitous improvement. Like, let's be honest for a second. You're right. Your logic is totally right. But when I look at wide receivers, my counter argument to that is I've watched T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, two of the best, miss the playoffs because that's a poorly constructed rest of the roster. So two wide receivers that are absolutely epic with one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL can't get you to the playoffs. If I look at offensive line, we see teams with great offensive lines that don't win a ton of football games. If I look at edge rushers, Myles Garrett and Max Crosby are two of the best edge rushers of their generation, and they sit home and watch the playoffs every year on TV. So, like, I hear you that it's a safety, and a safety doesn't win you football games. I just think I'm becoming more and more resigned to no one position other than quarterback actually does win you games. You have to get better every single year. I heard this as a Raiders fan, and I still hear it with Ashton Genty being drafted last year. And the number of times people say you don't draft a running back that high. And I get it. I understand that logic. The answer we got this year was, see, that's why you don't do it, because it doesn't win you games. I would ask everybody, do you think that a better left tackle would have made the Raiders a significantly better football? How many games does having a better left tackle win you if the rest of your roster sucks? So I honestly think sometimes we overcomplicate the top of the board. The top of the board, when you are picking top 10, if you have a chance at a Hall of Fame level player, take the Hall of Fame level player and then continue to just get better inch by inch, position by position. It's not a sexy answer, but I don't think any one position anymore other than quarterback results in enough wins to justify passing on a generational talent for another position.
Well, but that's where I think we're kind of getting, blurry lines here, because I don't think one quarter or one position, even quarterback, can change a franchise. Look at Sam Darnold with the Jets. Sam Darnold had a bunch of nobodies, not even starters in the NFL, and he was terrible with the Jets and discarded. He just won a Super Bowl. So, like, even quarterbacks need pieces around them in order to truly change a franchise. No one guy is going to, take a truly terrible team with a bunch of guys that should be on practice squads and all of a sudden make them a playoff contender. If those are your expectations, that's just not fair. Like, a quarterback can't even do that. So, it's all about roster construction. It's all about year over year through the draft, whether in first round and all the way through all 7 rounds, through free agency. It's about roster construction. It's not just one puzzle piece. It's how does this one puzzle piece fit within the massive construct of a 53-man roster. That's where value comes into play, in my opinion. If you have a top 5 pick, that is invaluable currency in the NFL. But you also have to piece that with what pieces can we find that are reliable starters in rounds 2 through 4? What are pieces, veteran pieces, that we can find in free agency that's not going to completely blow up our books? That's kind of how I'm looking at it. Is Caleb Downs the best safety in this class? Yes. Does Caleb Downs have the ability to be one of the best safeties in the history of the National Football League? Yes, I believe so. But also, can you find a viable starting safety in the 2nd or 3rd round? Yeah. Is he going to be better than Caleb Downs? Of course not, because Caleb Downs is just that kind of a special talent. So it's all about value. How can you get the most squeeze out of every single lemon of your most premier and valuable positions? And then how else can you supplement that? Like, I look at guard, for example. You don't see very many offensive guards going in the top 10 because that's just not a premier position. And we saw this with the Tennessee Titans. They drafted Peter Skoronski with the 11th overall pick, moved him over to guard. The Tennessee Titans are still in roster hell because they didn't take a positional player that could help them that year or the next 5 years. They took a guard, and you can find a guard in the 3rd round. You can find a guard in the 5th round. You can find a guard in free agency at a bargain cost. So it's important to use that valuable capital you have and get the most value out of it. Look, Kyle Hamilton is incredibly valuable to that Baltimore Ravens team. I'm not saying he's not. But at the same time, like, how would you rank value on that Ravens team?
You're right. I also think, though, to your point, you can find a guard in the 2nd or 3rd or 4th round. That's true. I don't trust bad teams to do that. I don't trust bad talent evaluators to find the right guys in the third or fourth round. And sometimes, to me, and this is, again, I'll go back to Brock Bowers a couple of years ago. Was it smart for the Raiders to pick a tight end in that draft? No, it wasn't necessarily position in need, and I'm not sure how much tight ends win you football games. He was the best player, and it was clear he was the best player, and hasn't won any games for the Raiders, certainly. But the Raiders are bad because they draft poorly in the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth round. They draft poorly over and over and over again. Bad teams. The Titans are bad, not just because of Skoronski, but because when you look at their draft class as a whole over the course of 4 years, there's barely anybody left in the league from some of that, right? So to me, you're right, but I don't know that I trust a team that's consistently picking in the top 5 to actually find that player somewhere else. I don't know that I trust a team that's perennially awful to turn around and find the safety in the third round that's maybe not Caleb Downs, but he's pretty damn close. So they got another player and they got a starting safety in the third round. When you look at the teams picking at the top of this year's draft, the Raiders, always at the top of the draft. The Jets, always at the top of the draft. Arizona, always at the top of the draft. Tennessee, always at the top of the draft. Cleveland in there. The Giants, who might be a little bit better, always. We're talking about the same 6 teams that suck all the time. I don't trust them to get the third round, fourth round pick right. So sometimes I just want you to take the layup because maybe it's not the most efficient thing. But damn, I just want you to get a better player. You need so many things if you are the New York Jets that, man, I don't want you to pass on if the Jets board tells them that Caleb Downs is a beast and nobody even touches it. If he is clearly number 1 on their board, take Caleb Downs because, my God, you're the Jets because you need talent everywhere.
Of course, you go by your board. If he's your number 1 guy on your board, and if you have him ranked as the number 1 player in the draft, and you can get him if you're the Giants at 5, you take him. I'm not saying don't take Caleb Downs. I'm not saying don't take a safety or a corner or any non-premier position at a premier draft place, just because it's not a premier position, if you actually think that this guy is going to be a franchise difference maker, which I think Caleb Downs is. But, you bring up Brock Bowers. I think he's different, too, because Brock Bowers wasn't a tight end, isn't a tight end. Brock Bowers is so much more than that. But I could also show you Kyle Pitts and how Kyle Pitts has largely not done a whole lot for the Atlanta Falcons. So, and you bring up not trusting franchises, bad franchises. That's true. But I think that's a different conversation. That's not on Caleb Downs if he gets drafted by a team that can't draft and can't develop and can't identify talent. That's a front office issue. And I think that's the foundation and probably the root of a lot of issues of bad teams in the NFL. Bad talent evaluators, bad general managering, and bad ownership.
Speaking of the draft, by the way, we did get a little bit of news that will impact it yesterday. Trinidad Chambliss, the latest turn in an ever-turning story. Looks like he is going to be granted another year of eligibility, ... for now. We'll see how the NCAA responds to this. But Ole Miss quarterback was granted a preliminary injunction giving him an additional year of eligibility. Ross Dellinger did a lot of really good reporting on this. Check it out. The NCAA likely to appeal the decision from Mississippi Judge Robert Whitwell. But for now, he's eligible. I want to make sure everybody knows, Caroline, in this battle of eligibility, he's not been invited to the scouting combine. He's missed a lot of draft prep. At this point, he's put the eggs in the basket. It is clear that Trinidad Chambliss intends to play for Ole Miss. It's also clear that the legal battle for this is nowhere near ending.
You bring up the judge, Robert Whitwell. If you wanted to guess where Robert Whitwell has a law degree from, where would you guess?
Ooh, is it Ole Miss by chance?
Ding, ding, ding. Fitz is a winner. Robert Whitwell has a law degree from the University of Mississippi. If you wanted to guess, the judge that granted Charles Bediako, the Alabama basketball player who was given, short leash to go from the G League to college basketball, where do you think that judge went to college?
Alabama?
Alabama! Ding, ding, ding. Look at you, Fitzy. You're just crushing it today. 2 for 2. That is just such clear bias and such clear conflict of interest that we have in college sports. It's ridiculous. It's laughable. I love this for Trinidad Chambliss. Clearly, he wanted to come back to college. He's getting paid handsomely to come back to college. great for him, great for his career. He's good for college football. He's one of the best quarterbacks in college football this past year. This isn't an anti-Ole Miss sentiment. This isn't an anti-Trinidad Chambliss sentiment. This is just a sentiment of where do we draw the line? If we just have alumni, making favors for and bending the knee for and making concessions for players that went to their alma mater, then where does it end? Where does it stop? At what point do we maintain the sanctity of college sports? At what point is it a judge saying, sure, you're 35 years old, but you can go back and quarterback for my college football team? It's twisted.
Yeah. You are right, and the answer to that is when we have collective bargaining and the entire system is changed. In the meantime, we'll keep you updated on everything you need to know about college football. But coming up next, one of the best in the business, Apolo Ohno joins us live. We'll get his thoughts on everything happening so far in the Olympics.
One school that's doing some work in there right now, very quietly, is the Florida Gators. At the time of us taping this, Florida is sitting there with a top 10 class. And you're like, JD, wait a second. Florida's got a top 10 class? Who have they added? And I think this portal class in general for John Summerall is a good reflection of just the overall vibe, attitude, persona of what you're going to get from John Summerall during his time in Gainesville.
And I've been thinking about the Denver Nuggets here for a little bit. Jamal Murray's gonna have to carry the torch during this program. I know it's the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air looking around and no furniture around, but hey, he's gonna have to figure it out. What I will say that helps Denver is the return of this version of Aaron Gordon. And I very specifically mean this version of Aaron Gordon. And I know you might have a twinge of concern that he may do too much, but it was good early and they need it now.
Have you had a chance to kind of unpack all of it?
Yeah, I don't know that I have yet. I think it's just another reminder of how wild pro football can be. I've lived it so many times. I mean, I think going back a little over 2 years ago when I tore my Achilles to now, there's been a lot of curveballs and a lot of change. And I was told a long time ago in pro football, you got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I'm reminded of that time and again.
How long do you feel like that window is with Lamar, though?
I think you can get 2 more years of Lamar as a locked-in top 5 guy. And then I think after that is when it's like, okay, maybe he ages to more being a top 12 guy, which is still good. Maybe more of a tier 2 guy in my brain. And then it kind of ages from there. Russ went from like a tier 2 guy that fell off to a tier 3, tier 4 guy. You're going to have that drop off at some point in your career.
Apolo Ohno tweets out, holy sweet Mary Moses, that last lap was destructive to the other competitor's psyche, built different stoles. He joins us now, 8-time Olympic medalist, Yahoo Sports Winter Games correspondent. We talked to you about stoles going into the race. You saw it. Give me your thoughts now that you've seen it in person. You saw what he did to the competition. What stood out to you?
I think the first thing that stood out to me was the fact that he performed exactly as he has been the past couple of years. Something that you may have seen in these Olympic Games is there's a lot of upsets. Certain athletes that we think were going to win don't. Athletes who weren't even potentially going to make the podium all of a sudden skyrocket to that first place position. So he has a ton of pressure. We've been hyping him up. Everyone's been hyping this man up. And he just stays to the core, right? He's a quiet guy, but there's this inner fire of drive and hunger to win that we haven't seen in a long time. And the fact that he delivered when everything was on the line proves to me that he's not only physically capable, but here, which in my view is the most important part of any sport, this man has it together here. He still has more races to come, but he's smashed everyone. I mean, his last lap is so extraordinarily fast. His ability to manage lactic acid, which is the pain in the last lap, he's in another level. And we're seeing the makings, in my view, of someone who could do multiple Olympic Games. Again, he's got more races. I don't want to talk about that stuff yet. I've also been keeping my distance from him as much as I want to engage and talk to him and tell him how proud of him I am. He's in his zone. So he's in what I call the tunnel. He's in the tunnel right now, and he's in that zone.
You mentioned in your tweet there how it just destroys your opponent's psyche. I saw an interview with Jennings DeBow, who's the silver medalist, who was in the lead on that final lap, and he said, I could feel him coming. I could hear him coming. And in my head, I'm thinking like the Jaws theme song, like Jordan Stolz was like, Donna, just creeping on him. So explain that, what that does, feeling your opponent, hearing your opponent, and the rest of the speed skating world watching what Jordan Stolz did in that race. What does that do to your opponent's mentals as you move forward?
Well, long track speed skating is a race where it is a race against the clock. You are in your own lane. Unlike short track speed skating, where you're racing around and passing and there's strategy and jostling and jockeying for position. This is all about going as fast as you possibly can. And so when you see someone who historically has had a last lap that is just so remarkable, it does two things. One, you almost anticipate this person is going to go faster than you, which is not a good thing. You don't want to be in that feeling where almost like you're waiting for him to beat you. And so he's already made a name for himself to be this person who is a finisher. So a finisher in long track speed skating is, Jordan is not a classical 500-meter sprinter. He is someone, I think, that lives between the space of a 1,000-meter athlete and a 1,500-meter athlete. And you may ask, well, what the hell is the difference? Well, the whole difference is about 30 more seconds. And that can make or break a lot of these athletes. And so he has this really special ability to just go so fast at the end of the race. But the psyche for the other athletes that are getting ready for the forthcoming, or for the events that are upcoming, which is the 500 meters, this is how it's going to change a lot of his game. He's going to have to get off that line really fast. But if I was a competitor and I was someone else who was looking at this kid and seeing what he was trying to do, which is do something that hasn't been done for many, many years and win multiple gold medals, I would be really concerned about, does he have the ability to pass me? Am I going to be paired with him going into that day of the 500 meters or the 1,500? And how do I stay in my own lane, in my own zone? So the mental game, in my view, is the single greatest lever for either catastrophe or for triumph in any of these Olympic athletes' games. And there's just no margin for error. I mean, literally, this comes down to hundredths and sometimes tenths or even thousandths of a second, which are just so small. And they train 4, 8, sometimes 12 years of their life to be perfect on that day. I mean, it's maniacal, right? We think about football and baseball and basketball. If they have a bad quarter or a bad game, they can reset and they can go back. Okay, I'm going to play again. I'm going to play again next week. It doesn't happen for these guys. They have one shot. They have to be perfect on that day. They're trying to harness the power of a 4 or 8 year journey, compress it into this moment where sometimes athletes are great next week, but you know what? Next week's not the Olympics. Or they were great 2 weeks ago or a month ago. And timing that peak is just so critical. The Dutch traditionally have been truly extraordinary at timing the peak. They just have somehow professionalized it. They understand it. And this is the first time in a very long time that we have seen an American almost just blow the doors off of anyone. And in my view, it comes from a lot of his upbringing, his hunger, his desire. He's as I mentioned, he's quiet, he's humble. But make no mistake, this kid has a lion and a hunger inside of him. And you can feel that when he gets to the line.
So you mentioned managing the lactic acid at the end of that run for him, which only makes me think about the fact for most of us, like after leg day, you need help getting up and down the stairs for 2 days. So how does he rebound physically in order to get ready for the 500, considering how much he had to expend energy-wise at the end of that last race?
I think it's a great question. So number one, he is very prepared. He comes from an era of training systems that has been somewhat forgotten in the year 2026. Now, what do I mean by that? So his coach, Coach Bob, is someone who has been a part of the speed skating community for many, many, many years. In the Midwest region, they have traditionally created these very high volume, high intensity, long duration types of training. So high volume typically allows that athlete, if you either have the genetics to continue on and it filters so the cream rises to the top, and those who are left surviving are true genetic specimens. Stolz is one of those people. So we combine this incredible, hard, high volume amount of training, which then catalyzed into the fact that he recovers extremely quickly. He's probably one of the only athletes in long track who can compete in the same day on multiple races and do very, very well. So from my view, I'm not concerned at all with his physical capability and his conditioning. For me, the only concern in the 500 meters is that he's not a classical 500-meter sprinter, meaning like his first 200 or 300 meters is typically not the fastest. Now, has he won in the past? Absolutely. Does he have what it takes to win again? Absolutely. But this is the Olympic Games, and there are true sprinters out there who their first 200 or 300 meters are going to be very hard to beat. He has to keep those things together, and he has all the makings of what it takes to win. And I expect that we will see him on the podium. The color of the medal will be yet to be determined, but it's going to be exciting. It's a ballistic, powerful, short race. You mentioned a little bit about the lactic acid. And so if I was going to walk you through what that feels like, so yes, you talk about leg day, you're doing squats or leg press, or maybe doing calf extensions or raises. Speed skating is weird. You're in this very unorthodox position. Okay. So number one, you're basically cutting off blood flow supply to oxygenate and remove the lactic acid. Unlike running or sprinting where your body is being able to flush this through, you're almost like taking a garden hose and you're bending it, right? So it's building up all this blood into the leg and it has nowhere to go. And so their legs, if you watch the last like quarter lap or the last half a lap of a 1,000 meter, or when we watch the 1,500 meter, even the 500 meters, for those that are true sprinters, they can barely move their legs. I mean, it looks like they're just moving so slow. It's to the point where sometimes when I watch, I'm like, what the hell, man? Why aren't they moving their legs faster? Well, the reason why is because those legs feel like they weigh 1,000 pounds each. You got two midgets hanging on the side of your hips that happen to be your quads, okay? So this is like a very challenging, uncomfortable position. And those that train to be in these states, right, that it's called lactic capacity or alactic power. That's the energy system that these athletes train. It's grueling. It's brutal. There's like this weird metallic taste that you get in your mouth. And it's almost like you can feel it in your teeth. It's like, it's a gnarly, gnarly taste. And there's also something called a hack, right? So we call it the 1,000-meter hack. So after they're done, they somehow develop this weird like bronchial hack where it's just like, oh, this very deep, throaty cough, and it's just because they have pushed their body so hard. And it's I know this sounds strange. It's a combination of like, it feels like it's a little bit like it tastes like blood and metal at the same time. I know that's like really nasty, but these long track athletes this is what they do, right? They push themselves to the absolute, the limit of complete obliteration. And those that can sustain the type of lactic acid in that final lap, like the 1,000 and 1,500 meters, is the one that can typically win. Now, I want to preface this by one simple fact. The ice conditions do play a role with that type of lactic acid buildup. So if there's ice conditions that are softer and slower, typically that lactic acid buildup is much earlier in the race, meaning the athlete's endurance also starts to shorten, but it also becomes a really important factor as we look to see in those lap times. So it's really all about who has the guts, who has the conditioning, who has the ability to manage that pain. And this kid's built different, man. You saw it in my tweet. There's just something special about him. I got to watch him race, and I've seen him race many, many times, but I think it's always really fun when you see someone who's got all the pressure on the line and then they deliver. There's something very special about that, right? Because they've got the target on their back and they still rise to the occasion. That's championship mentality right there.
Apolo, man, we appreciate your time. We appreciate your expertise. What I love about it is not only do you make me more of a fan every time, but you make us smarter. So it gives us better things to watch, man. We really appreciate all of your expertise. Stay safe out there. Enjoy the Olympics. We appreciate it. I know we'll have you back, but love getting to talk to you about the sport that you love so much.
All right. Yep. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys. Apolo. All right. We've got more Olympic breakdowns to come. I'm just blown away by everything I just heard. I've learned so much in that process. Coming up next, we're going to figure out exactly what to make of what LeBron did last night. Plus, what do we make of the All-Star game? We'll tell you next.
Penn State has imported Iowa State. It's the best way I could explain it. Penn State has now taken Rocco Beck. They took RB1. They took wide receiver 1. They took 3 offensive linemen. I detest that this is how college football works at the moment, but it's the way it works at the moment. And that is when you take a head coach, part of the thinking behind hiring the head coach is who he can bring with him. And in Matt Campbell's case, it was basically whoever he wants.
I'm very fascinated to see which direction they go here, because I think that Roman, this is the deal with him. He's not terrible. He's not offensive as an offensive coordinator, but he can get you to a certain point. You need somebody else to get you to the next point. I think he's done a good job with Herbert getting him to run more and getting him to push the ball down the field. Now I'd like to see, someone kind of just, again, give him some more quicker options. That's the type of stuff I'd like to see from the next coach.
Tom Aspinall, Cyril Gahn, that needs to be resolved, right? Hamzat Shemaev versus Sean Strickland. But I will accept Hamzat Shemaev versus Fluffy Hernandez. If Fluffy beats Sean Strickland, I'll take either of those. Here's another one of my, but you accept these as secondary.
100%.
Armin Sarukian versus UFC lightweight champion. We cannot just keep having Armin doing grappling matches and eating and all this stuff. He
I'm
must
kind of okay
fight
with
for
it.
No, I'm not. I know you love it.
You get the first pick in the underrated player draft. Who are you taking?
Jalen Duren has never made an All-Star game. He's never made an All-NBA team. He's gotten so much better as a scorer this year. Jalen Duren is like a legit All-Star this year. And so because everybody talks about the Detroit situation like it's trash and Cade Cunningham, I'm going to say he's still a little bit underrated, and he's my number one pick.
LeBron James becomes the oldest player in NBA history to record a triple-double last night with the Lakers. Another big game for the King, 28, 10, and 12 at 41 years old. They take down the Mavs 124-104 without Cooper Flagg, but certainly this was one of those statement reminders, Caroline, that, look, LeBron may not be what he once was, but he's still better than most at this entire thing.
LeBron is still LeBron. Is it LeBron who watches? Exactly. Is it LeBron that watches a lot more YouTube golf than normal or than we were used to? Yeah. Is this LeBron that's dealing with more arthritis than he did before? Yeah. 100% he is. But Fitz, you and I have both talked about, I'm not waiting with bated breath for LeBron James to retire. I'm not saying it's time for LeBron James to retire. The King has earned the right to step away from the sport whenever he is good and ready. And last night was the perfect example of, hey, I don't really want LeBron James to go anywhere because he's still got enough left in the tank to have the nights that he had last night.
Yeah, absolutely. And to do that at 41 years old is just, it's just absolutely incredible.
It's
so
otherworldly.
look, the Lakers may not be a championship team, but certainly they're fun. I know that we get so obsessed about whether or not they're going to win it all. This was a reminder that you can find yourself on a random weeknight sitting there watching LeBron James, and that still brings joy to my heart. Well, let's stick in L.A. because we've got plenty to get to this weekend with the All-Star Game, but we figured we'd do it in an interesting way. We're going to give you the All-Star Game preview you didn't know that you needed in a way that feels very Hollywood. We're going to do it with movie posters, all right? So we're going to figure out the best stories from this thing using movie posters. Our first one is The World Is Not Enough, all right? This is coming up. Look at this. This is oh, my God. 007 on it. We
That's
got KD.
incredible.
We got Wemby. This is good work by Doug, doing everything that we could possibly ask him
Shout
to do.
out to Doug.
The All-Star Game gets a new format, 3 teams, 2 teams of U.S. stars, 1 team of international stars. They play round robin, and then the teams with the best records meet in the championship game. The world is not enough. You in for the globalization of this one?
I do love the idea. I will give the NBA credit for at least trying to make the All-Star Game interesting and fun. I don't think that this is going to be what does it, but I like the idea and I like the effort. Is the world enough? If the world was at full strength, and you're telling me that I get a team with Jokic and Giannis and Luka and SGA and Wemby, I'm sorry, yes, I would take that team 7 days a week and twice on Sunday. That's just kind of where the sport of basketball is going. It's the globalization of the sport. Some of the best players in the sport are from overseas. In SGA's case, from Canada. But since we don't get SGA, since we don't get Giannis, neither of them will be playing with injury. They might just be a little bit shorthanded with all of these American players.
Yeah, I think they're shorthanded, but, I'm going to take the opposite take of the Olympics. I'm kind of rooting for the international team. I don't know why. I feel like I'm just rooting for the internationals to come in and surprise everybody. I wonder if we'll get a more spirited effort. Katie has had plenty to say about the way we perceive this, so I don't know that we'll get necessarily
Katie's
a much more
saying
spirited
something?
effort.
That's crazy.
I mean, yeah, he's saying
Katie's never
something
talking.
about never and never listening. That's important. He's never talking because he's never listening. So he didn't know what we were saying. He just knew what we were saying. How about this next movie poster? L.A. Confidential. We'll take this one. The NBA's had its fair share of scandals this season. Adam Silver's sure to face some tough questions. So when we go to L.A. Confidential, love this concept. What are you looking for? Oh, look at that. Look at that. But by the way, I mean, I think we can all admit that Adam Silver just – I get it, but he looks like the bad guy that in Willy Wonka, the original Willy Wonka. That's what he looks like. I like the LA Confidential though, with Pablo like in the background, just sort of like peering over, looking at Adam Silver. Like I do like Pablo getting into this one with a seat front and center. Slugworth, by the way, that's the name we were looking for. He looks like Slugworth from Willy Wonka. All right, so
the recipe for the everlasting gobstopper.
I mean,
that's incredible.
Maybe that's what.
And if we ever,
maybe the cure.
If we ever had a real life Phineas and Ferb, then Adam Silver needs to play Dr. Doofenshmirtz.
Oh my God, this is amazing! This is amazing. That is well done by. You know what? We may not be able to solve tanking on this show, but we are solving casting problems all over the place. What are you looking for the most to hearing Adam Silver talk about?
I want him to talk about aspiration. I'm not over this. I'm not moving on from this so quickly. This is what Steve Ballmer and the Clippers and the NBA wanted us to do, was it would get buried in the news cycle and we'd all just forget about it. Not me. Not so fast, my friend. Because look, Adam Silver, I'm sure, especially with the Jazz fine just coming off of the heels of that he's going to address tanking. He's going to address, I'm sure, to a certain extent, load management. But we talked about that on this show. I don't know how you solve tanking. We had Tom Haberstroh on the show yesterday, and he said, in a world and in a system that incentivizes being bad, you are just inherently not going to stop teams from being bad. And I am of the belief that if you try and prevent tanking, well, then you will overcorrect and then punish teams that are actually bad. So there's nothing that Adam Silver is going to say to change my mind about tanking. I don't like it. I don't like that it exists, but it's going to happen. So I think we all just have to kind of just deal with it. I don't think there's a way to fix it. Aspiration, though, that is a clear and obvious attempt at breaking the rules, at circumventing the NBA salary cap, which is one of the biggest no-nos that we have in this league. I don't think that Steve Ballmer should get off the hook just because he's the richest owner in the NBA. Like, this is a true scandal that we have in the league. I want to hear what Adam Silver has to say about it, updates on it, and what he plans on doing about it.
You're right about that, but I still want to hear about tanking in general. I know you and I agree there's no solution. In fact, Haberstroh saying just eliminate the draft yesterday. To me, I kept thinking all day long, well, then why would anybody ever go play in Utah? Sorry, Utah. No offense, little offense. But, like, you get rid of the draft, we're going to see basically 8 teams rule everything because of the markets they're in. So I don't think that there's a great situation here. There was a Shams report yesterday that the NBA might be considering a tournament at the end of the season that would alleviate some of this. The NBA is discussing creating a tournament among lottery teams to determine draft order in order to stop tanking. This will, guys, every time there's a new law or rule suggested, ask yourself a very simple question. What is the absolute worst person going to do to circumvent this? And then you'll get the answer whether or not it's a good rule. It took me 3 seconds on a treadmill to look at this and say, that's a terrible idea, because what you're really going to do is incentivize the middle of the pack teams to start tanking. Because, hey, if I know that I'm probably only good enough to get the 4 or 5 seed, I'm not good enough to hoist the Larry O.B., but I know that I'm good enough to beat all the teams that are really terrible, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to tank all season long. And then when we get to that tournament that determines the actual draft order, then I'm going to put everybody in. So you're going to have to suffer through months of just awful basketball unnecessarily just to get to the point that then I put my starters in for the tournament because I want to win that first overall pick. So the middle class is going to suddenly find themselves tanking at an alarming rate, and it won't fix any of the problems. Yet again, a bad solution. I want to see if Adam Silver himself has any suggestions for real solutions. I'm hoping that we get an inspired moment from a commissioner that says, we've got committees looking at this and this and this, and we're thinking about this and that and that. Like, I want, rather than relying on Twitter X people to figure out how to fix this, I want the person that has paid millions of dollars to run the sport to stand up and do that for all of us. Let's get to the next movie poster. How about this? We'll get into, I know, a movie that you love, so we're going to get a little bit of feel into this. The Dame Knight Rises, all right? Instead of the Dark Knight, the Dame Knight Rises. Oh, Dame has never looked cooler than right there. Like, also, he probably says, I'm Batman. He says, I'm Batman. Really particularly cool. Dame, 3-point contest. He's you've got this. You like him in the 3-point contest?
I would love the story, because how awesome would that be? Dame tears his Achilles, comes back and wins the 3-point contest, and a star-studded 3-point contest at that. I would love that. But he tore his Achilles, late April of last year? 10 months removed from an Achilles tear. I know modern medicine can do some miraculous things, but that's really quick, because it's not just recovering, it's also getting back to 100%. I know they're not going to ask Dame to, go out there and do a couple of Euro steps and, play hard-nosed defense out there. It's just a 3-point contest, but still, it's so far, it's so closely removed from his Achilles. I don't know if he can go toe-to-toe with some of these guys that are 100%. I'm rocking with Con. That's my guy. Go Hornets. Shout out to Doug.
Yeah, look, we'll get to Con in a second. I'm rocking with Dame in this, and here's what I need him to do. I need him to play stroking while he's doing it. Like, I'm stroking to the east, stroking to the west. Like, look, I'm all in on this because Dame's still going to have the stroke, right? Like, he spent all this time just sitting in the gym, not being able to run around, but being able to shoot. Nobody's been shooting more, I'm presuming, than Dame has. So, yeah, I love Dame in this contest because he's going to come in, fresh legs, just come out and pop these off over and over and over again. While I'm singing Stroking, I need this to happen. I'll get you one more movie poster. You mentioned Con. It's never too early to get a little bit of Con Knipple love in this. How about this one? Catch Me If You... Con. How about Catch Me If You...
Yes!
Con. And we got,
look at that hair.
Look at this. That's so much lettuce. There's so much lettuce there. It's Cooper versus Con, and the question is top 2 candidates for Rookie of the Year. They'll have very different weekends. Cooper out with the foot injury. Con participating in 3 events. Can he use this moment for a little bit of momentum? Are we looking at Con for Rookie of the Year?
We should be, 100%. We should be looking at Con for Rookie of the Year. But also, how much should an All-Star weekend impact postseason awards? Like, do we do this with MVP? Do we do this with 6th Man of the Year? Like, do we do this with any award where All-Star Weekend has, a big amount of weight into it? I don't think that it should. I just view the All-Star game as something that's independent of the season. It's something that's fun. It's something that's just a different change of pace. Can Con Knipple, gain in on Cooper Flag for Rookie of the Year? Like, 100% yes. He can. If I had a vote today, I would vote for Con Knipple. But I don't think that if let's say Con goes off in this game, or let's say Con does win the 3-point contest, I don't think that should have a lot of weight in the Rookie of the Year conversation.
It shouldn't, but it just gets more attention. You're right. To the voters,
True.
I don't think it will, honestly. I don't think the voters are going to sit there and turn around and change their mindset based on what they see in the All-Star game. But the Hornets, and I'm not sure it's an advantage or a disadvantage. I just think that at some point people were a little late to start paying attention to the Hornets because the presumption was they were going to suck. And so now all of a sudden you're paying a lot of attention. And so all of these things can just sort of help bolster the human side of the voters, which might be, hey, I haven't watched that much, I haven't paid that much attention, but then he comes out and he really hits it in this All-Star weekend, and suddenly you just find yourself paying a little bit more attention. You find yourself resonating a little bit more with where this Hornet season is going. I think that there's a human element to this that, to that end, I just wouldn't be surprised at all if Con Knipple ends up being Rookie of the Year. And this doesn't just feel like a flash in the pan moment for him. I love the way he plays. I actually really like the way this Charlotte team has played so far, but Con feels like, to me, he's growing something that could be like this sustainable moment. So I feel like we're in the beginning of a really cool chapter that we thought was going to be so much about Cooper Flag, and it still will be. This isn't about anything Cooper Flag hasn't done or anything that Cooper Flag hasn't lived up to. It's possible. It's okay to sit there and say Cooper Flag has been great, But at the end of the day, Concanippel has been an absolute storyline that has got all of us captivated. We've also been captivated with the Winter Olympics. We'll get you more breakdowns from another Olympic great coming up next. Julia Mancuso going to join us. We'll get her thoughts on everything happening on the slopes so far.
At the very top of my list, we need finality to Aspinall versus Gunn.
Yeah.
We need finality to
let's
this.
push out.
Have to.
I just want to see this fight play out because guess what? It was a very entertaining fight and it was playing out in a way that I think a lot of people didn't think it would play out. So I need to see that fight. I have to see that fight. The division needs to see that fight. They both need to see that fight. They both earned it and deserved it, and we can't move on without that fight.
Do the Spurs still take Dylan Harper over Concanippel and VJ Edgecombe?
I think for me, if I was to do it all over again, I would still take the best pick available, and that is Dylan Harper. I mean, you see he just is such an elite creator.
Prior to the draft, Mo, I was pretty consistent in saying that I would trade down and take a Concanippel. Con at 4, I still think would have been the best possible outcome for San Antonio, and I feel that way even more strongly at this point.
All football teams are dams. Some of them have a ton of cracks. Some of them have a few cracks. It's all about who faces enough water pressure from their schedule to expose the cracks. Most of the time when you're playing in the Big Ten or the SEC, you're going to face several tests that will expose your cracks. I don't think Ohio State did this year. They faced Texas early in the year, and they just never faced enough pressure to expose the cracks.
Did you notice that the scoring totals had fallen in the new year, that the New Year's resolution apparently was to bring physicality back?
A couple of years ago when it was all of a sudden everybody scored 50, 60, 70. And then like the air went out of the ball for a month. And it was like in the middle of the season, the way the rules were being called kind of changed and scoring started to drop.
Look, to be fair, Dan, it could be, hey, everyone just magically figured out how to play legal defense.
An Olympic proposal. Team USA's Breezy Johnson said yes after her partner proposed at the Super G finish line. What a cool moment. Joining us now again, four-time medalist Julia Mancuso joins us. Julia, what's your reaction to Breezy? A life-changing moment for her. It's cool to watch her get engaged in this process, but what was your reaction to Breezy so far in these Olympics?
Well, I love it. I've always looked forward to watching Breezy shine on the world stage. She showed so much talent from a young age. And what a fun thing to get proposed to at the Olympics. I love the stories. I think that's what it's all about. We get to humanize the athletes as well as watch them compete at the highest level. So congratulations, Breezy.
So exciting and so happy. And you brought up the Super G event. You know, I am not a skier, snowboarder, not anywhere close to being a Winter Olympian, right? So to me, ice is ice, snow is snow. But I've learned so much about how conditions play a huge factor in a lot of these events. They did play a big factor in the Super G event yesterday. So break that down for us. How do the conditions get so bad out there, and how does that affect the athletes when an event is postponed?
Well, the conditions weren't bad per se. You always have to look at the snow condition, and the snow condition was perfect. It was the light that was bad. The light was very difficult. It was flat. When it's gray like that, it's hard to see the difference between the snow and the sky, which makes it hard to see the rollers. They do use blue dye, and Cortina is actually one of those events that's in the trees and in the rocks. So there's a lot of good visual references on the side of the hill. But Super G, you get one run and you almost reach the same speeds as downhill. So it's very difficult to anticipate. It was also set very turny and tactical, really favoring the more technical skiers rather than the full downhillers like the Breezy Johnsons on the tour. You could tell whoever I actually am not sure what coach set, but you could tell that they were setting for the more technical skiers. And yeah, you really just never know what's going to happen in ski racing because it is an outdoor sport. You have the snow conditions changing, you don't know where you're going to start. It's never quite the same. So you have to be adaptable. And that's what I love about Super G is that anything can happen.
So we were just talking to Apolo about sort of the timing and the training and making sure that you're peaking at the absolute right moment. What sort of impact does postponement have on everybody that was necessarily prepared in their minds and physically for a run that is now happening at a different time?
Well, I mean, you have to deal with delays, of course, where that's kind of part of the game. And so you get better at it. You get your routines, you ramp yourself up, you bring yourself down. But really it's those 2 minutes before you go that you get to prepare. They do give you enough time. Like if you get held in the gate, they normally have an interval timer, and you'll see that, they'll let you know you're starting at the next interval. So we have these routines in place that those 2 minutes before you go are always the same. And that was a way that I was able to bring myself back. But yeah, it's hard. You have your muscles, you have all the different routines that happen 15 minutes before your run that you kind of have to forget. You kind of have to move on, but it's hopefully you have a good 2 minutes right before that center you and bring you back.
So this is the last time we'll get to catch up with you before we have women's giant slalom on Sunday. That's obviously an event that you know very well. You won gold in that event in 2006. Michaela Shiffrin finished 4th in that event in 2018. So what does she need to do to follow in your footsteps and win gold in that event on Sunday?
Well, Cortina is a little bit of a glider's hill. So she's definitely going to have to find her speed. Her coaches know, Michaela is one of the best athletes in the world, and she's surrounded by the best trainers. So I'm sure they're aware of that. They're going to be training different speeds, higher speeds that she hasn't been doing as much this season. And she's really going to have to be clean. So I think that she learned a great lesson at the combined. She learned all the girls, all the athletes are here to show up to the highest level, and they're going to be pushing it. So I can't ski safe. I have to go out there and give it my all, especially this season. She has had that horrendous injury that she was coming back from in the giant slalom where she was actually impaled. And she talks a lot about how it's hard to get her mental strength back because you do everything, you envision okay, I can crash. I might, fall into a fence. I might hook my arm, and you're thinking about your feet. But the last thing that goes through your mind is that something from somewhere that you don't even know what it is. I'm pretty sure they still are not sure what happened that could come stab you while you're crashing. So she's had a hard time to get over that mentally with the higher speeds. And so giant slalom has been tougher for her. She's going to have to go out there and do something she hasn't done this season and let it all go. But I think she knows that from getting 4th place in the combined. That was the kick in the butt she needed to know, okay, all these girls are gunning for me. I have to do whatever I can to have a perfect run, but also don't hold back. So she needs to not hold back and not think too much and ski what she knows and how she knows how to ski. So yeah, the giant slalom is going to be, I think, a huge upset if she does win. It'll be a surprise for everyone because she hasn't been on top this season, but she's very much capable of doing it.
Talking to you makes me think a little bit about a conversation that we started today's show with regarding Chloe Kim. Chloe Kim wins a silver, and the way that the world works now, it's patterned as a disappointment. So, Julia, for you as an Olympian, how do you sort of look at success or failure within the Olympics when there are such high expectations for some athletes? And I just feel weird looking at anyone that's got a silver medal and trying to couch that as some level of a disappointment.
Yeah, the Chloe Kim story for sure. I mean, everyone thought it was hands down she was going to win. And yeah, silver. I felt from her, she was already thinking before she went into the games, no matter what happens, I'm going to be happy. And I think that's something also that the public, they didn't really talk that much about how she was barely in the half pipe this season because of an injury. So being able to get that silver medal and actually finish a run out of 3, it looked really difficult for all the riders, but being able to finish and be really proud, I could tell she was proud, and I think it was very genuine. I think that we all have such high expectations for athletes because we want those hero stories and we build it up to be especially we want to see the unattainable happen. And so it's like sometimes when these athletes get silver, it's like, oh, you're just like us. We want to worship these heroes. But the reality is the Olympics, the snow, the conditions, it's a really hard sport. It's always changing. It's not just putting on your track shoes and running as fast as possible. There's so many variable conditions, and that's what's so beautiful about outdoor sports, but also what can be really hard. And it's, you hear the athletes all the time, especially in skiing, talk about, Breezy said, we didn't have the heartbreak, if we didn't have the crashes, the triumphs wouldn't feel so great. And it's so true. I mean, I think that the silver medal is probably for her a reason to celebrate the gold even more. But I mean, how incredible. 3 Olympic medals in 3 consecutive events where you only have the one event, it's just the half pipe. That's another crazy thing. You look at these other sports and you have so many more opportunities. In snowboarding and free skiing, like most of these athletes are just doing their one event. So that's even more pressure that nobody thinks about, like when I was racing, I did the downhill and the Super G. I did and the giant slalom. We had anywhere from 3 to 5 events that there was a possibility. They were all so different, but I still had that possibility. Chloe had one chance, one shot. So I feel like the stakes were even higher for her.
You bring up what it kind of felt like her mentals were going into it. And it does feel like, she had a certain amount of peace of no matter what the outcome was. I have to imagine that going into your 3rd Olympic Games, your psyche is much different than going into maybe your first. Did you experience that? What was the kind of mindset difference in your first Olympic Games versus your 2nd, 3rd, and 4th?
Everything just feels so new when you go to your first Olympic Games. There's so much media, there's so much going on, and it's exciting. I was at my first Olympics when I was 17, and as a ski racer, they typically brought younger athletes that showed a lot of talent. So for me, I kind of knew I was there to experience it so that the next time it wouldn't feel so crazy. Chloe's sport, she was 17, I think, when she made her first Olympic debut to win. So every Olympic experience is different. I loved the energy of the Olympics. So when I was able to go and win the gold medal in Torino, it was just so fun because you had all the other sports. I really thrived off that. I loved the social part of it too. Maybe a little too much sometimes, not as much as Bodie Miller in those games, but we like to have fun, and the Olympics just brought that extra energy and attention, and I loved it. But it's definitely different. You have the world stage, and also the pressure of your family. You have all your family there, which I loved too. But I think for a lot of athletes, it's like, wow, everyone came all this way to watch me, depending where the Olympics are. And so yeah, there's a ton of different pressure, but it's really amazing. It's really such a special, unique event. And I listen to all the stories of the athletes there this year, every year. And I'm just so grateful to have been a part of it, because it's just such a fun experience for all these athletes to get to not only show up on the world stage to compete against each other, but to show the world what their sport is and what it takes to be a champion.
We updated everybody yesterday on Lindsey Vonn posting on social media 3 surgeries on her legs, on her leg. What was your reaction to Lindsey in this process now?
Wow, I mean, my reaction was, girl, you really did a number on yourself. I just honestly can't believe it. It's really like, of course there can always be a worse situation, but she really did a number on her leg. So I felt sad again, she's now in the hospital. I actually saw a post from her sister say, it's incredible the things that actually bring you together. Although this wasn't the way they were planning on spending the Olympics, they've been able to really come together and have this time. And they found, the silver lining in it all. And that's what I feel when I see her messages. I feel a message of hope. I feel messages of no regrets, and just, eventually putting one foot in front of the other. I think mentally, I guess that just sounded like the wrong thing to say in this moment, but mentally putting one foot in front of the other and taking it step by step. And she seems genuinely okay with everything that happened and she's just looking forward to getting better. But yeah, I mean, the picture, it's really devastating. And I think of the pain she has to go through. And I mean, there was pain and hardship in her whole career. And that was the last way that I think any of us wanted it to finish. But she seems like she's in really good spirits, and that, I mean, if anyone can recover from this and keep a positive outlook, it's Lindsay. So she's teaching us all that anything can happen and you just have to stay positive.
Well, we are incredibly honored to get to talk to you again. Not the last time. We're going to talk to you throughout the course of these Olympics. Love your insights. Love your expertise. Julia, thanks so much for hanging out with us. Enjoy watching the Olympics. We'll talk to you again next week.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks, Julia.
It's great stuff from her, as always. In the meantime, we're going to keep the Olympic conversation going. We're going to put our spin on it as we always do and give you some can't wait Olympic style coming up next.
One school that's doing some work in there right now, very quietly, is the Florida Gators. At the time of us taping this, Florida is sitting there with a top 10 class. And you're like, JD, wait a second. Florida's got a top 10 class? Who have they added? And I think this portal class in general for John Summerall is a good reflection of just the overall vibe, attitude, persona of what you're going to get from John Summerall during his time in Gainesville.
And I've been thinking about the Denver Nuggets here for a little bit. Jamal Murray's gonna have to carry the torch during this program. Like I know it's the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air looking around and no furniture around, but hey, he's got to figure it out. What I will say that helps Denver is the return of this version of Aaron Gordon. And I very specifically mean this version of Aaron Gordon. And I know you might have a twinge of concern that he may do too much, but it was good early and they need it now.
Have you had a chance to kind of unpack all of it?
Yeah, I don't know that I have yet. I think it's just another reminder of how wild pro football can be. I've lived it so many times. I mean, I think going back a little over 2 years ago when I tore my Achilles to now, there's been a lot of curveballs and a lot of change. And I was told a long time ago in pro football, you got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I'm reminded of that time and again.
How long do you feel like that window is with Lamar, though?
I think you can get 2 more years of Lamar as a locked-in top 5 guy. And then I think after that is when it's like, okay, maybe he ages to more being a top 12 guy, which is still good. Maybe more of a tier 2 guy in my brain. And then it kind of ages from there. Russ went from like a tier 2 guy that fell off to a tier 3, tier 4 guy. You're going to have that drop off at some point in your career.
Oh, it's a Winter Olympic themed. Can't wait on this show. They put gold medals around all of our necks. Bart, you're still making an appearance whether you want to or not, because if you know this show at all, you know that on Fridays we'd love to give you a little bit can't wait. This is where Yahoo Sports Daily figures out what's going on in the weekend, and we decide whether something is great or it's not. If it's great, it's a Bart. And when we say a Bart, you hear this sound effect. Can't wait. See, that's a Bart.
Correct.
Well, what's the opposite of a Bart? Well, very clearly the opposite of a Bart would obviously be a fart, which would trigger this sound effect. And that's a level of Olympic status. That's an Olympic level fart right there. So we'll give you some events happening.
That is that.
Thank you. And then we're going to figure out whether or not, this very regal process gets a part or a fart. So we've been hitting a bunch of the big events. We've all already look. We know you're going to Bart things like hockey and figure skating and speed skating and snowboarding, all that. Well, we know those all get it. But now we're going to give a little bit of spin to some of the other sports out there, and we'll start with doubles luge. Doubles luge for you, Caroline Fenton. You see it right there. 2 people laying on top of each other, squeezing their what's to try and make sure that they are just puckered up and getting around the track. What do you think, Bart or fart?
Well, this is a Bart, obviously.
Can't wait.
Yes. I saw a tweet that was like, first date idea, doubles luge. But
oh my God.
Who would you rather be? Do you want to be on top or the bottom one? You're getting crushed, but on top you have to live with the fact that you're crushing your buddy.
No, I'll crush a buddy. I don't mind that. You know what? I'm a little guy. I'm always little spoon. Just once I'd like to be big spoon. So maybe I want to be the one on the bottom. Like maybe
Okay.
I'm not sure. Here's the thing.
That's
You're
allowed.
right. Double luge is a Bart, but you know what would make it even Bartier? Of the Barts of the Barts. Like if we wanted to make it a triple Bart, you know what would make doubles luge
Triple
even better?
luge.
No. Fat guy luge. I want fat guy luge. Like I'm talking right. I want Bart Scott's too skinny for the version of the luge that I want. Right. I want offensive linemen stacked on top of each other on like now. Look, I'm gonna be honest. I'm not sure who gets that luge rolling. I'm not sure how you get that much. But like back in the 80s wrestling days, Caroline, they used to always say they'd introduce a tag team and they'd tell you the total combined weight. I want that. I want like introducing with the total combined weight of 830 pounds, Team USA. Like it might take Bart to push that luge, but I'm in. Give me fat guy, double luge, not single. I need double luge, fat guy. That's like a triple Bart. What say you?
I think that would be the perfect version of let's get a regular person doing all of these Olympic events just so we all have a point of comparison of how ridiculously difficult all of these events are. We need fat guys on skates doing figure skating, obviously. No explanation needed. And we need fat guys doing the double luge. But is maybe the way to quadruple fart that? Is it fat guy on top of little guy doing double luge?
Oh
And
my God!
part of the fun, part of the competition is you can't crush your tiny friend that you're laying on.
Oh my God! Look,
An added
the
level
thought,
of
now
danger.
all of a sudden, I am now all of a sudden doomed because I'm just trying to think of my fattest friend laying on top of me while I'm trying to hold on for dear life, and at the end I got to get up and I got to walk 10 feet, and that's the way you actually slam the thing at the end. We are making new Olympic sports right here, right in front of your eyes.
You're welcome, America.
There is, you're welcome. The earth,
World.
like the entire globe. Like I don't know how big they are in certain countries, but they're going to have to find the fatties for the version of this that I want.
We would win that event. An event of fat people?
America, yeah, America.
USA.
There we go. Pound for pound, we win. What about the skeleton? Are you Bart or farting the skeleton where the guy lays down on the thing head first and they just head down that thing?
This is a total Bart because people might say, oh, you're just laying down. You're just doing this. Which you might be right. That is kind of what they're doing. But can you imagine how terrifying that is? It's one thing to lay on your back and go down feet first. But can you imagine your head is racing face first? And your head is going, excuse me, so you can see, my hair. Can you imagine you're going head first, speeding at, I don't even know how fast, but very fast down ice, and you can't see where you're going? You're just hoping that you're going the right way and you're going fast enough? That's scary. So that's a Bart for sure.
No, this one's a fart. It's a fart because you're right. Like I watch it with like one eye covered. I'm absolutely like, okay, so if for anyone that ever saw Peacemaker, the TV show, like at the end of season 1, they put on the helmet and they say human torpedo. Like that's all I kept thinking about. I'm watching a human torpedo. You don't know where you're going. You don't know how you're getting there. You don't know where it's going to end up. I do like the helmets. The helmets are apart. I like the way that they've gotten creative with their artwork. Particularly that shot is much better than the luge shot where the camera's in a very awkward position. I prefer what they're doing here with this, but the entire thing is a fart for me. It is tough to watch because I just think the entire time somebody's just going to absolutely either spin out of this thing or they're going to go straight into the wall, and then we're going to have a really tough watch. Look at the one leg up on that thing too. I don't know. You know what? You might be changing my mind on it. I thought it was a fart, but now I'm seeing all this. How about one of the most popular sports that we haven't had a chance to really give it the love it deserves so far? Curling. Are you going to Bart or fart? Beloved curling, Caroline.
Okay, don't come for me, America/world. It's a fart. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't get how the little thing moves. I don't get why you sweep the ice. I don't get how you win. I don't get how you get good at it. I don't understand it. It is not for me. I'm sorry.
It is a Bart. It is the Bartiest of Barts. It is one of my favorite Olympic sports. I
Explain it to
absolutely
me.
adore. Oh, I can't figure. Like, so it's a little like they're playing angles. They're playing pool, essentially, where it's like the number of times you see them down the other, like if you hit it here, it's going to go here, and then it's going to knock all of these out. So, it's basically rolling pool balls on ice. All right. But then the little brooms, which, by the way, has got to be a forearm workout. Like, the brooms are doing, depending on where the positioning is, the brooms are doing one of two things. They're either clearing the track in front of the disc to make sure that it rolls at a faster speed, or they're trying to create friction behind the disc to slow the disc down, depending on the way that they're brooming it. So, sweeping it, I should say. They're not actually brooming it. I'm all in on curling. I have tried it a couple of times in my life. It is not easy. It is not easy. And I'm not sure which one's tougher. Like, I thought, okay, throw in the actual curling disc or whatever it's called. Like, I thought, okay, that's going to be the easy part. And then I tried it.
Perhaps?
That is the puck, yeah, the circular, the Roomba. So as the Roomba covers the ice, like, I thought that was going to be the easy part. It is not the easy part. But I also don't think I'm coordinated enough to sweep without falling. But yes, 100%. I'm in on this. There are leagues across America that offer the opportunity to do it. Hit me. I want to become a curling aficionado. Like, I might try and look into play-by-play on curling. I'm so into this thing. Curling is a gift to the world. It is a part. I can't help it that you don't like nice things. And they're right there. So then we got, like, I mean,
What can't
who would
Snoop
ever
do?
thought? Who would have ever thought? My question is, like, do we play Snoop while he does this? Is Martha Stewart on his team? If Martha Stewart's on his team, now, like, you give me an all-convict team for curling, I'm in. I'm in.
It kind of looks like Fitz is on his shirt. I don't know who that is, but it kind of looks like you, Fitz.
I wouldn't be mad. I mean, you know what? That's because he wants me in the back going, bow, wow, wow, yippee-yo, yippee-yay. That's what he wants. That's what Snoop is asking for. Snoop, I hear you. Fly me out, and I'll be your hype man the whole time. This is electric. I don't know about the
You don't get to hang out with
right
Snoop
there.
in Milan without me.
Okay, well, I mean, I'm sorry. Like, look, if there's a +1 on it, I would love to invite you. If there isn't, I'll just do the show remote. If you see me eating a plate of pasta next week, you know I got the call and the PJ came and picked me up. How about biathlon? You in or out on biathlon?
Okay, so initially I was out, in years past, but when I went to the Olympic showcase a couple of months ago, I got to interview a bunch of Team USA athletes. It was awesome. And I got to interview a couple of Olympic and Paralympic biathletes. I have a brand newfound appreciation for biathlon. So it's a Bart.
Can't wait.
Thank you. One of the biathletes told me, she was like, okay, so picture your two ends of the spectrum. When you are skiing, you're going, like your heart is pumping, your adrenaline is racing, like you are racing against the clock. It is a total cardio workout. Then once you get to, is it the shooting, the hunting, whatever you want to call it, when you get to that part of it, you have to slow your entire nervous system down. You have to slow down your breathing. You go from a full out on cardio blast to now it's a mental game. Now it's a game of how steady you can be. That is crazy. I never even thought about that. Of you're going from sprinting to now all of a sudden trying to hit a bullseye. So I think biathlon is awesome.
Look, I'm out. It's boring. Every time I watch it, I think, yeah, it's a fart. It's a total fart for me. It's boring. It's boring. I mean, I get everything you just said, and that's, I guess, electric. But, like, I like my skiing when everybody's racing at death-defying speeds. Like if they were, I don't know, on bungee cords or something, trying to shoot around at targets, maybe that would be more interesting. It's just very static to me. It's very one level. It's very. All right, let's get one more in. Are we Bart or farting? Ski mountaineering, which is new this year and is a combination of a bunch of. They're calling it Skimo. Bart on the nickname. But are you in or out
Bart on the name.
ski mountaineering? I mean, ski mountaineering, where they're climbing mountains and skiing up and down. It's crazy.
And also Bart to this tweet, Ti amo Skimo. Oh, cutesy. It's a fart for me. For everyone, yeah. For everyone except King Claybo, if I'm saying his name correctly, the guy who had a sub 6 minute mile pace uphill on skis, he was moving, he was grooving. I mean, we talked to Apolo Ohno about lactic acid. I can only imagine what his legs were doing in that moment. That's insane. So yeah, he gets a Bart. The sport gets a fart. Like, I don't need to be watching. It's like cross country. I don't need to watch people run around in the wilderness. That's boring. I don't need to see people running uphill.
To me, running uphill in skis is so admirable. Like, it's a part. It's a part for me because if you can run uphill, I can't run uphill without skis half the time. So how you run uphill, sub 6 minute run with skis on. Look, I've got so much respect for that. I am barding that thing all day and twice on Tuesday. See, Yahoo Sports Daily, not only do we give you former Olympians to come on and give us great expertise of exactly what happens in lactic acid and rebounding from one race to the next, we also barter fart all the new events. Only this show could do that for you.
Wait.
Speaking of only this show, coming up, it is Friday the 13th, so we figured we'd take a look at some of the scariest free agency pairings in the NFL. Coming up next.
Penn State has imported Iowa State. It's the best way I could explain it. Penn State has now taken Rocco Beck. They took RB1. They took wide receiver 1. They took 3 offensive linemen. I detest that this is how college football works at the moment, but it's the way it works at the moment. And that is when you take a head coach, part of the thinking behind hiring the head coach is who he can bring with him. And in Matt Campbell's case, it was basically whoever he wants.
I'm very fascinated to see which direction they go here because I think that Roman, this is the deal with him. He's not terrible. He's not offensive as an offensive coordinator, but he can get you to a certain point. You need somebody else to get you to the next point. I think he's done a good job with Herbert getting him to run more and getting him to push the ball down the field. Now I'd like to see, someone kind of just, again, give him some more quicker options. That's the type of stuff I'd like to see from the next coach.
Tom Aspinall, Cyril Gahn, that needs to be resolved, right? Hamzat Shemaev versus Sean Strickland. But I will accept Hamzat Shemaev versus Fluffy Hernandez. If Fluffy beats Sean Strickland, I'll take either of those. Here's another one of my, but you accept these as secondary.
100%.
Armin Sarukian versus UFC lightweight champion. We cannot just keep having Armin doing grappling matches and eating and all this stuff. He
I'm
must
kind of okay
fight
with
for
it.
No, I'm not. I'm not.
No,
I know you love it.
You get the first pick in the underrated player draft. Who you taking?
Jalen Duren has never made an All-Star game. He's never made an All-NBA team. He's gotten so much better as a scorer this year. Jalen Duren is like a legit All-Star this year. And so because everybody talks about the Detroit situation like it's trash and Cade Cunningham, I'm going to say he's still a little bit underrated, and he's my number 1 pick.
NFL Free Agency Outlook 2026. Look at how many free agents each team is set to lose and the cumulative contract tied to these players. The data is out there everywhere because we are starting to get into that time where we're looking to see how teams can build for next year. As you see there, Seattle, New England, and Green Bay have the fewest free agents. Washington leads away 24 players. So we figured in honor of today being Friday the 13th, which is a great day for horror fanatics like myself, we're going to figure out what's scary, the scariest fit for some of the top free agents. So let's start with the scariness of Kenneth Walker III. Caroline, give me a scary fit for KW3.
Feel free to call this a cop-out if you want. That's fine. But the scariest fit for Kenneth Walker, it's in Seattle. He was just Super Bowl MVP. They just won a Super Bowl. The Seahawks were the best team in the NFL for a big part of the season. Zach Charbonnet goes down. All of a sudden, Kenneth Walker reaches a new level. The scariest place for Kenneth Walker, well, there are places where he would fit. I brought up Denver as a place that he could potentially fit. Dallas, I think, is a place where he could fit. But the scariest fit is the place where he just won a Super Bowl. It's Seattle.
Look, you're right, 1,000%. But I tried to move him somewhere else that I thought would be scary. And so for me, that's the Chiefs. And I don't think the Chiefs are just going to sit stagnant and let everything come back to the way it was last year. I do believe that the Chiefs are going to look at ways to sort of augment their offense, knowing that they may not have the best version of Mahomes for a while. So giving myself a great running back, and I do mean a great running back, in an offense with a mind like Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy comes back to be part of that offense as well. I think that we're going to see the Chiefs really focus on running the football early in the season while Mahomes gets back to healthy, and then let's see what they look like from a weapon standpoint. So even though there's some complications with it, I think Kansas City and Kenneth Walker III make a ton of sense because he is the best back on the market, and it would help them sort of take care of one of their biggest needs early in the season by having a more reliable running back in the backfield for them. So I send Kenneth Walker the third to the Chiefs for the scariest combination. But I do think you're right. Seattle is a great, great fit. What about another Seahawk? What about Rashid Shaheed? A massive trade acquisition for the Seahawks, is now a free agent. I would love to see him stay in that offense, but where do you think that he would be a scary fit?
There are so many wide receiver needy teams that I think he'd be a great fit. The Patriots, the Steelers, the Bills. But I think the best fit is with the Chargers. Keenan Allen is a free agent. They're not going to re-sign Keenan Allen. He's 33 years old. So they need to replace that production. Keenan Allen was the Chargers' second leading receiver this past year. So you need a guy to replace that production. And you get younger at the position. You also have a deep threat to match with Justin Herbert's deep ball. So that, and from a wide receiver sense, makes so much sense. But also, I love Rashid Shaheed and what he contributes to special teams paired with Jim Harbaugh's special teams expertise. So I think Los Angeles is the perfect place for him. And also Mike McDaniel. You have Jim Harbaugh and what he adds as a special teams savant. Mike McDaniel, what he adds as an offensive genius. And you add in Rashid Shaheed, who is just a jack of all trades. I love that fit.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I would love to give you a complicated secondary answer. I think part of what made the Seahawks offense so good with Shaheed in it was he had a very specific role. So it designed attention that went away from Jackson Smith-Njigba, which helped JSN. I would love to see him stay in Seattle for that reason, much like there was a period where part of what Tyreek Hill was doing so beautifully was just making everybody adjust to the way that he ran routes. Shaheed can do that. The Seahawks, I just wonder if the Chargers, if you're Mike McDaniel, if you look around and say, okay, this is a massive increase in speed, in depth. It all makes too much sense for me not to put him in LA with the Chargers. I think you're right. Plus, Chargers going to be aggressive, I think, this offseason, trying to find more and better weapons for Justin Herbert. So it makes too sense. That's a scary combination. What about an underperformer? I'm going to give you a guy here that every year I feel like fantasy football fans drafted, and every year fantasy football fans yelled at. What about Kyle Pitts as an option? Where do you think that he is the scariest?
I think it's the Rams. He fills a need. Tyler Higbee's a free agent. Tyler Higbee's 33 years old. Kyle Pitts is only 25. I was surprised when I thought that, but I guess I just feel like Kyle Pitts has been in the league longer than that. But Kyle Pitts is only 25. He doesn't turn 26 until the middle of next season. So you're getting younger at that position. You're adding skill at that position. And the Rams this past year used 13 personnel more than any other team in the NFL, and it wasn't even close. 13 personnel, 1 wide receiver, 3 tight ends. Adding Kyle Pitts, a guy who has so much raw talent. We saw it at Florida. It hasn't come to fruition in the NFL. I don't think that's because of a lack of talent or a lack of want for Kyle Pitts. I think he's just been mismanaged by coaches and offensive coordinators. So you pair him with Sean McVay, one of the most brilliant offensive minds in football, a guy who uses tight ends in such a fascinating and creative way. I think it would be perfect with the Rams. I think the Rams would be terrifying with Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, look, that's a great call. I genuinely wonder what the contract's going to look like for Kyle Pitts, because certainly the production has not matched the expectation every single year. So I don't know that he's going to break the bank necessarily. I think the Patriots, a team that, certainly going to be looking for a lot of offensive weapons. I know the last thing the Bills need is another tight end, but I do wonder if you bring him in and just let him compete there. I think any place that wants more offensive weapons for their quarterback makes a lot of sense to me. I keep going back and forth on it. Again, also, let's just see what Kansas City does. I know they've obviously got Kelsey, they think, coming back for another year, but I wonder if they bring in Pitts and try and get Pitts to learn a little bit from Kelsey, give him an opportunity to sit in that offense for a year. I have a hard time not remembering the production we saw and not feeling like that can and will work in the league at some point. It just hasn't worked yet, and I don't know the right spot to get an answer. I just think he's going to be coveted because the traits are too good for him not to be a coveted piece in several offenses. Look, he's not a guy that's going to be a blocking tight end that helps you a lot, but he's the guy that can go out there and get a ton of catches for sure. All right. What about this one?
And
Let's
he
go
was
to the defensive side.
the second most receiving yards of any tight end in the league this past year. So I'm with you. Like, he's fallen short of expectations 100%, but I do feel like the numbers and the production this past year have bumped up the price at least a little bit.
Yeah, you are right about that. 1,000%. Also, I wonder if we would have paid more attention to some of those results if it wasn't for the expectation. We felt like he was going to take over the league the way that Brock Bowers has since he was drafted, and that hasn't necessarily been the case. What about Trey Hendrickson? Trey Hendrickson, we forget, is going to hit the open market at this point. A great pass rusher that does not give a dang about stopping the run, but a great pass rusher. Where do you think Trey Hendrickson, not a spring chicken either, where's the best scary fit for him?
I think he would be at his scariest in Chicago. Chicago struggled this past year to find a consistent pass rush. Now, what Chicago doesn't need is a guy who can do it all. What Chicago needs is a guy that sees quarterback, gets quarterback. See ball, get ball. That's exactly what Trey Hendrickson does. I also think he fits that identity and the culture of Chicago so well. Blue collar, nose to the grindstone, work. It fits so well within the Bears organization, I think. And also, the Bears are in a window right now. Offensively, they have all of the pieces. It's just defensively, how can you kind of capitalize on that? So I think there's a lot of places that make sense for Trey Hendrickson, but where he's at is scariest is at a team that is currently in a window to win right now, and that is Chicago.
Yeah, you're 1,000% right. Great call by you on a team to prepare to win right now. If it is not that, then I think the one place that kind of makes sense to me is the Raiders. They have a ton of money to spend, and you could bookend him. Look, loudly, this is not a replacement for Max Crosby. You bookend him on the other. Like you've got two edge rushers now that can get after the quarterback. And in theory, I'm presuming that Max is going to come back for the Raiders. We'll see. But if you're the Raiders, you're not good enough to win a bunch. But you do have $100 million to spend, and you're going to spend it somewhere. So to me, if Trey Hendrickson comes in for the next couple of years and gives you the opportunity to win some games, that at least brings the floor of the organization up a little bit. I wonder if a complimentary pass rusher situation would be a good one for him. Also, keep an eye on the Cowboys. I don't know how they'll figure it out, but my God, I know he doesn't stop the run, but there would be irony in that. One more, not technically a free agent, but we should include in this conversation because the rumblings are getting louder and louder that Derek Carr wants to make his return to the NFL. Now, the Saints still hold his rights, so anyone that would have him would have to acquire him for something from the Saints. They still hold his rights for a year. But, Caroline, to me, this feels like just a made situation for the Jets. You see the picture there. Musgrave was hired. One of his favorite coaches is now the offensive coordinator for the New York Jets. He's talked about how much he loves the coaching staff there. He wants to go somewhere that believes in him. He made that clear last year when he said he didn't listen to calls from the Bengals to simply come in for a second. I honestly keep looking at this, and I think right now as we sit, Derek Carr is going to end up the quarterback of the Jets, not just for a year. I think that Derek Carr is going to end up being a 3-4 year contract for the Jets for a 32-year-old quarterback. He's going to come back and try and play sustained football in the NFL.
Ooh, who is that scary for?
I
don't
say 34,
know if
by the way.
that's
34, not 32. My bad. Wrong age. He's 34, not 32. I misspoke there.
And look, he's no spring chicken, but Aaron Rodgers is 41. So it's not unheard of that Derek Carr could be playing from 34 to 37 and get a 3 or 4 year deal. But I don't think that's scary for anyone other than Derek Carr himself going to an organization where quarterbacks go to die, or if that's scarier for Jets fans who have been wanting to find their long-term solution at that position for so long and haven't been able to. Like, Derek Carr is going to win you some games. He's going to be interesting, but it's not going to put the Jets in a position for long-term success. So yes, that's scary. To your point, that is scary. It's not scary for the rest of the league. But Derek Carr, I did hear him on a podcast. Maybe it was his own podcast, but he was talking about how much he loves Aaron Glenn and how much he loves Jets fans. You ain't slick, Derek. You are not slick. I think another place that would be scary, again, not for the league, but scary for that fan base, is Pittsburgh. I think the last thing that Steelers fans want is another old, aging quarterback that's going to win you enough games to be interesting, but not enough games to actually make a run in the postseason. It just feels like it would be the Steelers going right back into the well, copy and pasting the same kind of blueprint that they've had for the last several years. So scary, sure, because they're going to be interesting. I think it would be scary for the AFC North. Not because the Steelers would be a juggernaut, but because the Steelers would be able to play spoiler to enough teams in that division, and scary for that fan base for not finding their long-term solution like the Jets.
Now, I mean, and to that end, his last full season as a starter, his last season with the Saints was cut short. His last full season as a starter, he completed 68% of his passes, 25 touchdowns, 8 picks, almost 4,000 yards. Derek Carr puts up numbers.
Scrub.
He just doesn't win. He just doesn't win football games. So, at some point, somebody's going to be enticed, especially this year, given how bad the free agent and draft market looks for the quarterback position. Somebody's going to take a bite of the apple. All right, coming up next, we'll figure out Valentine's Day weekend is upon us. All right, so we'll make up or breakup, the Valentine's Day edition, coming up next.
At the very top of my list, we need finality to Aspinall versus Gunn.
Yeah.
We need finality to this.
Have to.
I just want to see this fight play out because guess what? It was a very entertaining fight and it was playing out in a way that I think a lot of people didn't think it would play out. So I need to see that fight. I have to see that fight. The division needs to see that fight. They both need to see that fight. They both earned it and deserved it, and we can't move on without that fight.
Do the Spurs still take Dylan Harper over Con Knippel and VJ Edgecombe?
I think for me, if I was to do it all over again, I would still take the best pick available, and that is Dylan Harper. I mean, you see, he just is such an elite creator.
Prior to the draft, Mo, I was pretty consistent in saying that I would trade down and take a Con Knippel. Con at 4, I still think would have been the best possible outcome for San Antonio, and I feel that way even more strongly at this point.
All football teams are dams. Some of them have a ton of cracks. Some of them have a few cracks. It's all about who faces enough water pressure from their schedule to expose the cracks. Most of the time, when you're playing in the Big Ten or the SEC, you're going to face several tests that will expose your cracks. I don't think Ohio State did this year. They faced Texas early in the year, and they just never faced enough pressure to expose the cracks.
Did you notice that the scoring totals had fallen in the new year, that the New Year's resolution apparently was to bring physicality back?
A couple of years ago when it was all of a sudden everybody scored 50, 60, 70. And then like the air went out of the ball for a month. And it was like in the middle of the season, the way the rules were being called kind of changed and scoring started to drop.
Look, to be fair, Dan, it could be, hey, everyone just magically figured out how to play legal defense.
Oh, that image from last week, for anyone that didn't see it, that would be Jordan trolling Robert Kraft by wearing a T-shirt to the North Carolina Duke game, representative of the massage parlor that the owner of the Patriots was accused of some illicit activity at. So obviously, what we learned over the course of the weekend
Coincidence.
is that Jordan Hudson. Absolutely. I'm sure those are readily available on Amazon. Just go get you one. But we learned that no fences have been mended there. Yeah, 100%. Who doesn't? As she trolls Kraft, let's have a little bit of Valentine's fun. All right, let's get in the spirit of love, and we're going to decide whether we should make up or break up. So we're going to take feuds. We're going to take interesting moments with players and teams. We're going to go all of that, make up or break up. So let's have a little bit. By the way, you think there's any chance that Kraft and Belichick ever make up, Caroline, or are they just going to stay broke?
Never.
No?
Nope. I think that it's not in Bill Belichick's nature to bury a hatchet. I don't think that he has any interest in resolving any sort of relationship with Robert Kraft. Robert Kraft seems like he wants to, kind of patch up that relationship. He invited Bill Belichick to New England, but no, not Bill. He's a
I feel like this is just, you're going to end up with the bickering at the Thanksgiving table, like anybody that's ever come from a divorced family, and you just sit there and you're like, yep. Yet again, you guys have been divorced for all these years, and all you do is
for
argue.
a reason.
That is Belichick and Kraft forever. Now I feel like we're in a therapy session. All right, so let's take a look at some of the other issues that we have, players, teams all across the league, and we'll start with the Max and the Raiders. Do you think Max Crosby and my beloved Raiders break up or make up?
I hope they make up because I love what Max Crosby represents for the Raiders organization. I do see, a glimmer of hope in the Raiders organization. I love what Clint Kubiak brings to the Raiders. They're going to draft Fernando Mendoza number 1 overall. Ideally, in theory, he is your quarterback of the future. Adding Max Crosby on the defensive side of the ball, I know he's not a spring chicken, but you're starting to see the pieces come together of the Raiders being a competitive football team. I do, however, though, believe in the idea that where there's smoke, there's fire. And there has been so much smoke surrounding Max Crosby. And we reported it with Jay Glazer when he was on the show at Radio Row last week in San Francisco. He said their time together is done. So I will defer to that report. I will defer to, my theory of if we're talking about it, if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, then it's a duck. And I think they're heading toward a breakup.
I think they're going to make up. And I'll tell you why. Because before we had Jay on this show, I kept saying I don't think Max and the Raiders were going anywhere. Then we had Jay on, and it went viral, and it shocked me. Like, I mean, the first to admit that I had no idea that was coming. Max has appeared on his pod since. And one thing he has said repeatedly is when I have something to say, you'll hear it from me. He's had opportunities in front of microphones to say anything at this point, and he really hasn't. Now, you could take that as he's not saying, oh, my God, I want to be a Raider for life. Also, I don't really know that that's in Max's nature. I think this is all going to get worked out. They'll figure it out, and Max will end up back with the Raiders this season. In fairness, maybe I'm just putting my own positive manifestation in it, but as we sit right now, I think Max Crosby is going to be a Raider at the draft, which means I think he'll be a Raider into next season. All right, how about this one? A little pop culture reference here. Stephon Diggs, Cardi B had it out apparently at the Super Bowl because a different baby mama got better seats. So I don't know. What do you think? Stephon Diggs, Cardi B, they've unfollowed each other on Instagram? Oh, breakup or makeup for the celebrity couple?
That is that's baby mom. What not to do with baby moms 101. All of the mothers of your children get the same seat and the same row, Stephon. You should know better than that. Break up. Just break up already. They've unfollowed each other on Instagram. She commented on his Instagram, "You're a disgrace to football." He responded to her and said, "You're a disgrace to music." That's ugly. That's toxic. That's mean. You can't come back from that. Separate. I know they just had a baby, welcomed beautiful life into the world, and I love that for them. But it's time to break up.
No, they're going to make up. They're going to make up because I think they both like they like the drama a little bit with it, right? Like I think they've got this. We all have a friend that is constantly in a weird relationship with somebody where every time they break up, they make back up again. You can't be as loud as Cardi B was leading up to the Super Bowl. No, it's toxic. I didn't say it's healthy. I just think. It hasn't quite hit the finish line yet. Like we have certain friends that just always seem to go back to the person that maybe isn't the healthiest form in their life and their relationship, and that just from the outside looking in, I don't know either of them, but it certainly feels like that is the moment there where we're gonna find out over the course of the season that bygones will be bygones, and before you know it, Cardi B and Stephon Diggs back together. How about this one? Jay Glazer also told us on this show last week, Aaron Rodgers, Mike McCarthy were talking in. So what do you think? Breakup or makeup? Aaron Rodgers, McCarthy, the Steelers.
Makeup. You two won a Super Bowl together. It's better for football if we can get a reunion with the two of them. And that's kind of my thing with Aaron Rodgers is he has all of these very public beefs with a lot of different people. There's too much hate in the world to hold that much hate in your heart, Aaron. Let some of it go. Make up with your old coach. It doesn't necessarily mean that Aaron has to go back to the Steelers or even has to return to the NFL, but it would be a very lovely parting story if Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy were just on good terms again. It just sounds like they are.
Look, I'm never going to try and predict what Aaron Rodgers does because that's crazy, right? Like, certainly it feels like he might want to go back into the darkness for a few days and just recenter himself in this process. I don't think McCarthy took this job on the construct that he was going to have Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback, which means he had to have some idea of what he was going to be able to accomplish and how he was going to be able to accomplish it. I think you're probably right. I think they probably make up for this year, but I wouldn't be mad to see them break up because frankly, I'm not sure how much of a benefit there is for Aaron Rodgers at this point. We spent every week last year analyzing whether it was good Aaron Rodgers or bad Aaron Rodgers. Is he too old? Is he a shell of himself? Well, I mean, his body's not going to get stronger as he continues to get older. And then there is the element of, like, if you're Mike McCarthy, you're trying to set your culture, your tone for your organization now, for a place you want to be. Do you really want that to be assigned to Aaron Rodgers, or do you want to come in and be your own man? Now, McCarthy's had the glorious gift of working with Aaron Rodgers and Dak Prescott. So certainly the Aaron Rodgers he worked with and the Dak Prescott he worked with are much better than any quarterback, including current Aaron Rodgers that's on that roster. So I'm a little nervous to see what Mike McCarthy looks like when he may not have any tangible answer at the quarterback position. But man, I'd almost rather see that than see them just continue to barely tread water while they figure out what's next for their franchise, and they give too much equity to Aaron Rodgers staying in the building, which will, again, make them just good enough that they don't get a quarterback in next year's draft either. It's sort of lose-lose. How about this one? Last one is a 2-for-1. Kyler Murray and Tua were both benched by their respective teams, all right, to end the regular season. Both teams fired their head coaches. So could you see makeups or breakups for Kyler and Tua?
Breakups for both. It's time, the relationships between Kyler and the Arizona Cardinals and then Tua and the Dolphins feels like those relationships that you see, with friends or just people in public, where you're like, man, those two hate each other. Like, those two people are miserable, but they're just staying together for like insurance benefits, or because it's easier, or because neither of them want to acknowledge that it's really over. It's so obvious from the outside looking in that Kyler is not the long-term answer in Arizona. Nobody in Miami, no Dolphins fan wants Tua to be there. The only reason why Tua would be in Miami next year is because they just don't want to go into the absolute cap hell that they would go into if they moved on from or traded Tua. So it's inevitable. It needs to happen. Both of those franchises are already looking for a new solution at that position. So just go ahead and rip the Band-Aid. Like, it's inevitable. It's going to happen. Nobody is happy in this situation.
Yeah, that's the hard part about it, Caroline, is like, I feel like it's hard to have hope of a fresh start for your organization when you're not completely getting a fresh start. So if you are a Dolphins or Cardinals fan and you believe that your quarterback actually has that little special something, that thing that's going to lift them over the top, then sure, the fresh start can come from a new coach, new voice, a new person in the room. I guess I would ask both sides of this, like, what proof of concept have you really seen from these quarterbacks that tell you that guy is the long-term answer? If you're a Dolphins fan, who's been brought in that makes you think suddenly they're going to be better at getting the best out of Tua than widely considered one of the best offensive minds in the league was, because it didn't work before? I almost want, like, there was a TV show for a while, Wife Swap. I almost want that, like, a family swap sort of thing. Like, I wish there was a world where we could just Kyler and Tua could just swap teams for a year, see how they look in a different uniform, see what it looks like somewhere else, and then come back to their respective teams and make a decision there. Unfortunately, Caroline, that is not the NFL we live in. I think you're right. I think they all break up. But if I could just get like a swap, even just for the offseason, just let them go, like, try it out the other jersey, see how it looks there. And then at least we get some drama coming into this. I'm not sure either of these teams have their guy.
You say wife swap. I could also call that poop swap. And I don't think swap and poop does anything for anybody. Although you do bring up
that show.
Exactly. That's a fart. No, I'm not interested in poop swap. I don't think Tua, it's a matter of he just needs a new, fresh start somewhere else. I think Tua just is who he is at this point. And the concussions are always something that is going to be accompanied with any sort of conversation with Tua. Kyler, though, maybe Kyler could benefit from a fresh start. No, I don't think he's just going to be handed a starting spot anywhere. He may have to go through the Sam Darnold path, the Baker Mayfield path of bouncing around a couple of different places, being a backup, learning from a starting quarterback, learning from, an offensive genius of a head coach. Not all the hope is lost, in my opinion, on Kyler.
That's interesting, because I've seen at least flashes in the career of Tua that make me say, okay, maybe somebody can figure out how to bottle that up and sell it. With Kyler, I just doesn't feel like it's been there as much, and he's just such a wee little man for a starting quarterback in the NFL. That being said, he is tiny. That being said, the Cardinals did bring in Mike LaFleur as their new head coach. Certainly they believe LaFleur is a quarterback whisperer in his own right. maybe he can do more for him. What I know is we will be back Monday morning right here at 9 a.m. Eastern, as we are every single day. For Caroline Fenton, I'm Jason Fitz. Thanks so much for watching Yahoo Sports Daily. Come back.
Give us your breakout fighters of 2026.
You're not going to believe that. Number one is Manchester top teams, Atiba Gutier. I think he's going to be the next big African star, already is.
He's chiseled out of stone. He's got unbelievable power, great skill, huge for the weight class. Very, very impressive. And again, you speak to the guys over at Manchester Top Team, they could not be more excited about his potential.
Usually I would dunk on a team that's 8-9 going to the playoffs. You don't deserve it. For Carolina, celebrate it. This was a big step forward season. However you got there, you wanted some hope. You wanted something to be happy about. You backed into it, fine. I don't care. The Panthers did have some quality wins this year. They did seem to be making progress. So for the Panthers, hey, step forward, good job, celebrate it. It's a really nice year for the Carolina Panthers to win this division no matter how they did it.
I don't know how anyone could expect Kalen DeBoer to get Alabama back to where Nick